Let me open up the story. Let me tell you how this goes. Let me paint a little picture for you. Show you the impossibles.
All right, we're back. Here we go in the building. Somebody's podcast, episode 23. Chris Ledoux staring at me because he wants me to fuck this up so bad. We got my original gangsters in the room. We got two special guests. Oh man. First off, let me introduce you already know Mr. Chrissy Ledowski in the building. Pants extra tight.
You know it.
I ain't even hating. I'm just appreciating. You know what I mean? We got Mr. Baxter, J-Mac in the building. We got Mr. Recovery Conscious Mind, Mr. Ascend, Mr. Chips in your forehead, go to space.
Chips
Justin Atlin. And we got some fucking
gangsters.
We got some gangsters in the building. We got a villain and we got a West Roxbury. Oh shit.
The hood.
It's tense in here right now. First, we got my man Eddie Bahena in the building.
My man.
What up?
Back on SomeBuddies Podcast. It's good to have you back, Eddie. But we got a really cool guest. I'm excited about this guest. This man, a man in long-term recovery, 15 fucking years. Crazy. He is the director of business development, client outreach, whatever the fuck. Get people help. Get them into treatment. Big wig, big dog at over at Bedrock Detox, Northeast, and Recovery Champions.
And Spring Hill.
Spring Hill. God damn, man. You
it's
out
a lot
there.
of shit to remember.
Fucking empire.
I know.
It sucks
It's
because
got a lot of titles.
It happened fast.
It did. It's impressive.
It was quick.
No, it is impressive.
Very
15
impressive.
Yeah, that part's cool too.
That's the
And a billboard.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
A fucking billboard, can I just say?
That happened.
Every time I go on Facebook, Pat Cronin.
you were on a billboard.
Yeah, dude.
That
I'm jealous.
That was serious.
Yeah, dude. That shit's...
So the important shit though, like this is somebody's podcast. If you're new to this podcast, if you're just watching, this is a recovery podcast, a spirituality podcast, a better your fucking life podcast, a power of the mind, any type of willing to make some positive change and you need some positive reinforcement. Or if you feel like you're uniquely fucked up, we're here to tell you that you're not. And the important piece of what I'm talking about with Pat, and we'll get into Eddie as well, but Pat's first time on the show is like, we're talking about someone that's 15 years long-term recovery heroin addict that at one point in his life was like at a bottom, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, all that shit bottom. And now we're talking about being on billboards and like this important person in the recovery field. And it's not just you work for facilities. It's like you help a shit ton of people. You have one of the worst jobs in the world. Like what Chris has and what Eddie has is like, you have a phone that'll never stop. I couldn't do that job, you know, and you answer and field all phone calls and get all people help. It doesn't matter. And it's the same philosophy these guys go for. If someone calls for help, you find them help. It is what it is. If you can't personally help them, you find somebody that can. And but the important piece of that is like, how do we go from like because this is the shit that's important, because a lot of addicts, especially in early recovery, come into this and they have this like minimal sized idea of what life could become, right? Especially in early recovery, like what the fuck, what am I gonna do with my life? You know, how can I attain all? It's like it's hard to envision or imagine like this life worth living. And like this is the importance of this podcast. It's like the evidence that we're able to show you and talk to you about. And it's like breaking through the logical mind, because logic should say that none of us in this room should be in the position that. Or statistics, or whatever the fuck you want to break down. If you just a bunch of heroin addicts in a room, you know what I mean, that are living successful, happy lives and that help people, that's just it's not very logical or doesn't do well with the stats, you know. But here we all are, and here you are, and you're living this life that is a beautiful life, and it's come with a lot of work, and it's come with a lot of learning and lessons and all these things. So like it's the meat and potatoes within the story of like the trial and error of recovery, the changing of the belief system, the work that you do in whatever fellowship you go to. I know you're an AA guy. And then all things outside of that too, because it's a lot of work to get to this position, but it is attainable, and people need to know it's attainable. So I'd like to hear a little bit about that process, and we're going to segue, and then my man Eddie B, I'm going to tag you in. But this is Pat's first time on the show, so we need to break him in, you know?
Welcome.
So how do we get here? How do we get to that place, man? There's a lot of shit within that, you know?
No, what you just said too was like very important. Like, you know, when you look at people like us, when you look at people like us, you just don't think that we can be. Is this on?
Yeah.
Right,
You could shift it.
That way?
Yeah, there you go.
It just doesn't seem possible, like to be in this kind of position. So, so when I first got sober, I had the same like mentality of like thinking to myself, like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, how am I never going to go here? How am I like, I thought that like I had more limitations than like I really was going to have. That like I couldn't go to certain places and I would never be okay and all that kind of shit. But like, that's obviously, you know, I keep thinking, is this going on and off?
It sounds like it's breaking breaking out on and
I just
off.
don't want to mess up the show and you can't hear anything. You good? I mean, I can hear myself in here now. But
Yeah.
It's going in and
I
out.
think when you move it, kind of like how Chris is, just kind of like guide it, and you'll be Gucci.
Okay.
From,
Yeah, you just got to talk right into it.
All right. It just seems like it's good and then it goes out. But that
Oh,
could
you're
just be-
good. You're good there.
Yeah,
Right
yeah.
there,
I think you can't look at him to talk. You want to, and
So to be like where I was, so like I didn't come from like a broken home. I came from like a pretty decent home. But you know, at one point in my life, I just you know, I went in like a different direction. You know what I'm saying? And I think I went down the world of heroin like a lot of people in my generation. Like they started with the oxys and the OCs and stuff like that. And you know, it just tells you like especially from what I do for work now, like it really doesn't matter like where you came from. You can come from, you know, the bottom, you can come from, you know, different populations, you can come from a rich family, you can come from a poor family. You know, I came from a pretty decent family. So like that part of me though, I think affected me, like trying to get sober too. Like false pride, ego, thinking I was like different than anybody else. You know what I'm saying? I remember like my first time when I was in detox. At that point, it was when I was doing OCs. And like I literally would say, well, I'm just doing OCs. And they're like, all right, well, you need like 4 80s just to get out of bed and smoke a cigarette. And you think you're different than the heroin addicts.
Yeah.
And then I would be like, heroin addicts are a whole different ballgame.
and back then they were.
Yeah.
It's the truth of the matter. In the early OC era,
Yeah.
there was this perception that it was better to be on OCs than heroin. People didn't realize it was heroin.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I remember when it was as it was happening. It wasn't, you know, it was a situation where it seemed like. I mean, at the end of the day, they're being sued now because they did try to trick people into you could take OCs and be okay.
That's true.
And so all these young people started taking OCs at like high school parties and other places, and you were just partying and everything was all good. And then before you know it, we have this huge epidemic where all the young people are addicted. That's I was in recovery at that point, but I saw it happen.
Yeah.
And so that was the reality. Obviously, we all know now that Oxycontin's heroin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we didn't know that back then.
No. And that's why I would say that to like the counselors. And they're like, just so you know, if like you keep coming back here, like heroin is going to be next.
Yeah.
And then I would be like,
not me, not me.
you know what I mean? Like,
You know what?
do you know who I am?
Yeah,
What's funny about that is I've kicked both, and I remember
Me too.
that back then, being in my early 20s, well, 19 going into 20, and that seemed more fun and socially acceptable, right? Because I went to school in Melrose, so there's a lot of kids that came from good families, and I wasn't one of them. I just happened to go to school there, and it's funny that you said it took, what'd you say, 3 or 4 to go, so it's like $300, right? And we'd be like, oh, but we're not the dude that's under the bridge shooting dope or blah, 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 whatever, right? So it went from all that, and I've kicked both, and that the fucking oxys were way harder because it was
Way
synthetic.
harder. Yeah. Like I would like try to like take a step and like my knees feel like they would snap. You know what I mean? I was like, so the dope sickness on the oxys was brutal. But at that point I wasn't, putting a needle in my arm.
It was similar to like Coke and crack. It's like Coke's okay, crack, you're crack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's actually a good
too bad.
comparison.
Yeah, for sure. And that
Yeah.
just
Like
shows
very
you like
similar
the
back
stigma
then.
that just proves even more how like the stigma around addiction can it can hit from all different directions. Yeah, and then it just got worse and worse. And like I said, I was a good family. I was Catholic high school. I went to college. It was like, these, there was this perception that it seems like you only do drugs like if you come from like a horrible background. And like that's another like a stigmatized type of statement too. And I just, we got caught up. Like a lot of us just got caught up, and I was no different. The thing is that like no matter where you come from or what kind of family you come from, when you are in that desperation and you're hopeless and you're become an addict or you're an alcoholic, it doesn't matter what kind of family you live in. It doesn't matter, you know, what race you are, religion. Like this shit's gonna take you down. You know what I mean? So like I did not know that part. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm fine. I'm just gonna go to detox. I'm gonna come home and then I'm gonna drink with my friends that don't do heroin.
Yeah.
And then I would drink and then they would go home and then I would go do heroin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, They're like, I don't think you can drink. I'm like, they don't have anything to do with each other. And they're like, okay. Well, and then it was just bounce, like in and out of detox, in and out of detox. And then, you know, then I became that street guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I became the homeless guy. And then like, it didn't matter the high school that I went to and the college that I went to. And, you know, it was just in and out of detox and like, you know, abusing the healthcare system and then just, you know, hurting everybody around me and every, you know, female that I dated, their parents wanted to kill me, and every person that I put myself around, it was the same thing. They all wanted to kill me, and it was just like it to me, I felt like it just happened so fast. It was probably a little bit more of a drawn out process, but like once you get into the opiates, the addiction is just comes so fast, and like, you know, at that point in my life, I would do whatever it took to get high. That was basically like anything I did prior, whether it was being in a good school and having a good job and being from a good family, like that was all gone. Like getting arrested, getting locked up, all that kind of stuff that I was like, once again, false pride and ego. Like a person like myself who grew up in a family, like we don't get arrested, we don't do drugs, we don't do like, and that was not my case. Like everything bad possibly could have happened to me. You know, overdosing. I only overdosed one time, but I was out for so long that like they said, like the fact that I didn't have brain damage was like a miracle. But did I get sober after that? No. You know what I mean? It's just like I went in and out of so many programs. And I don't know, you know, that day that I did get sober in 2005, you know, I just, you know, God obviously did for me what I couldn't do for myself, but I just believe that I went to like the program that I needed to go to that was going to address like the trillion character defects that I had. Because like when I got sober, you know, when I was like going into treatment, it's like I don't have any character defects.
Nothing's wrong with me. It's everyone else.
You know what I mean? And this place just kind of broke me down and built me back up. But it was like a tough program, and I was 26, so I had been to like kind of easier programs, and I was just so delusional and dysfunctional that I had to kind of be in check in a program, and it taught me how to live life, and it was a 12-step, you know, house, and it you know, it put my life back together.
Did you go through the Mass circuit, or what did you?
Mass, yeah. I went to one private facility when this first go around went, because my parents were, you know, kind of not hip to this thing at first too, so they just thought like if we just pay somewhere to send him, he'll automatically, like, money just buys recovery. Like they had no idea, and I blew that right up. And then after that, it was like you're not on my insurance anymore. You have Mass Health, and good luck.
And then it looked more like Danvers or Tewksbury,
Danvers many times,
or Dimick, Spectrum.
Tewksbury and Lynn TSS was the last two spots I was at. It's weird because I'm not a North Shore guy, but when it came to detoxes, I was.
I wasn't a South Shore guy, but I always ran to Brockton when I got clean.
Yeah,
every time I tried to.
Do that. Okay.
And you can maneuver it too.
But Tewksbury detox came to like so. When you go to the same detox over and over again, and then you become close with staff, that's a problem.
Oh yeah, when they know your name, I love that. Or when you go in there, and I walk into Danvers Detox, and I'd go into the empty bedrooms, and I'd look for the blue mattress because it was like a certain blue that had like good padding. And I'd replace whatever.
You know which room to go to. It's like,
Oh yeah.
Then you have too much.
So what do you think was the process of like, so obviously we all come to this point where we're ready for change, right? And there's something that happens, and maybe we have a sense of surrender and we don't even know what it is that we need to do or all this stuff, but something happens and then the change takes place. And like, what was that process for you? I believe it's always the internal motivation, right? We become internally motivated. Sometimes we don't even know that we're internally motivated because we're just like, oh, if I can get the drugs and alcohol out of my system, I'll be fine. But what this is an internal motivation. And when we don't understand what this is, that's why we constantly take that bait, right? The alternate plan of action that comes from our disease that we don't even really know much about because we're never really in a state of mind that we're trying to learn about this thing, which is fucking crazy when you think about it. But a lot of us take that bait, right? And we come up with the external plan of action that looks like whatever the fucking easiest, softer way is that we're going to present to ourselves, for ourselves. And it's usually in opposition of like everything that's being suggested to us. But you obviously came to a point where you probably, I don't know your story, but I know for me, it was like I exhausted every other avenue. There really wasn't much left. So it was like, fuck it, you know? Might as well try what these people are fucking saying, see what's going on.
Usually all scorecards have to read 0 for me.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, okay, fucking, I just went through all that again. And I know it sounds, cliche, but just keep doing this.
Tilt it up.
I'm a horrible guest.
Nah, you're the best, dude.
Easy on the eyes.
We'll keep
too.
fucking with...
I seem like a rookie now. I'm like, fuck, it's going to hurt my ego. Take that billboard and throw it right out in the river.
No, it's humility. It's good, dude.
So I would say, I know this sounds cliche, but like I was so broken this last time I went to the South Shore House. It's probably the toughest halfway house literally probably in America, not just Massachusetts. 6-month program, but I was so broken. And like I've been in programs before and I was broken, but like I was just like, and maybe that's because I felt feelings in that program quicker than I did in other programs because they put me to work right away.
Yep.
Like right away. And like my mother and father, like I don't sugarcoat it. I'm a mama's boy, and like I don't hide that, and I don't care if people know that. If they catch wreck on me, like I'm very honest. Like I get emotional when I talk about my parents just because of how destructive I was on their lives. And like we mess with a lot of other people and we beat people and drug deals and all that kind of stuff, but like we typically like really hurt the people close to us the most. Like I'd be like nervous to take like $5 from my buddy because he might see me taking it, but like take $100 out of my dad's wallet, I'll do it in a heartbeat. Like, and he's the guy that loves me the most. So like when I saw them like deteriorating as much as they were, and like their relationship was getting affected by this, it like really affected me. And like this last time I got sober, before when I went into detox, like I just remember them praying like together, and they were like literally, and they're Irish Catholics, so they're like wicked
religious,
right? So like just seeing them praying, but like crying while they were praying, like, and I was like just about to go. It was just like I couldn't take it anymore. Like some people like relapse after feeling that again, and I probably have too. But it was just that like just seeing them for that moment, and I never recognized them on their knees praying before, and they were just crying because what I realize now is like they were praying for like God to not like take me, like you know what I mean. They were like, please, like don't let me lose my son right now, you know what I mean? And and that was just that emotion kept me like. I just said like, if I don't listen to these people, like I've tried every other way, my way, like, and it's never worked. So just listen to what these people have to say. Maybe it's not that bad. And I know that I feel like I'm a firm believer that God puts you in places that like you need to. Yeah. So like I just end up in Quincy, and like the recovery community in Quincy is like very, like it was at that point, it's different. It's a good population, but it's like younger heroin addicts that got sober. Yeah. So like I had this perception that like heroin addicts don't get sober, period. Like that's what I just thought that like if heroin addicts get sober, they at least like drink or like smoke weed or whatever. Like there's no such thing as like real like recovery. People are still like 100% clean. So when I got there and I saw people like raising their hands, they were like 24, 25 years old, and they were heroin addicts, and they were like raising their hand to be a year clean. I was like, no, this can't. I was like, you don't drink. And they were like, no, brother, like I just raised my hand, you know what I mean? So I like, that's how delusional I was. So I just feel like God put me in like what I felt at that moment was like the most amazing. And like, and I know up here, people say like the Nashville area, or at least kind of around here, like the recovery community is amazing. I tried to get sober in a lot of areas where it didn't seem like it was like my population. And like that's still a cop out. Like you can get sober wherever where if you put your mind to it, you can get sober. I couldn't put my mind to it. That was the problem. So God put me in a place that was like the right fit with me, and I feel like that was a huge part of me getting sober. Is like that I was around like-minded people that were like sick and could actually like catch wreck, but like not to intentionally hurt people. And I just never was around that trying to get clean. You know what I mean? I was always trying to be around the wrong people.
All right, so we had a little bit of microphone issues, but we back. I can't bring my man Pat in the building and have his mic fucking up, so we gave Justin the beat mic for now. He's going to make it work. But I was going to say previous to us cutting off real quick that I identified a lot with what you were talking about, especially with the mother component. Shout out Mom, because she's a super big fan of this podcast. One of 3. No, actually, we got a lot of subscribers. We're climbing, so shout out to the people other than my mom and Chris's mom that watch. But that
won't after next week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna flood Facebook.
What were you talking about watching your mother go through that process, and a lot of that happens in active addiction, and that was one of the things that killed me because my mother looked like she was using during that like course of like my last 3 years running. Like she looked like she was running too, except she didn't get to enjoy drugs. She was just up all night. Yep. And you're talking about her praying. At one point, my mother was like making peace with the fact that like she was prepping herself for me to die. You know what I mean? She was trying to make peace because it was owning her so much of like, just because I had overdosed multiple times. And it wasn't looking good for me. And I was completely out of control, and it was dampering her marriage was in shambles because of how much she was enabling me. And it was just an ugly situation. And that in and of itself is one of the things, especially because when I first came in this process of recovery, I didn't completely surrender to all things that were gonna catapult me into like a spiritual evolution, like a true evolution of self, like the actual miracle of recovery outside of like the putting down the drugs and alcohol. So like I did that whole like got clean and went on a run for like external rewards and tried to accumulate things with the stipulation that eventually when I get this thing at this certain place, I'll be happy. That whole bait that we set for ourselves in early recovery. Yep. And then I went through some tragedy and all this stuff, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, but like losing of my father and all that stuff, and I was already on the verge of relapse, and the only thing that kept me clean in that moment was I couldn't put my mother through that, you know? And that was honestly my point of like final surrender. Like when I say I ran out of options, it was like there was no other path for me to go. It was either like get a full understanding of how I suffer and why I suffer, or continue to suffer. You know, because for me, I had already collected the data that it was well beyond just a drug and alcohol problem. And I was like deep internal suffering. And the fact that I could never, like, I literally, and it's crazy because I talk about this often to a lot of people, but it's like, if you really look at what we bring in, right? All this internal warfare, like all this guilt, shame, internal suffering, the fucking, for me, like, especially like low self-esteem, fucking, vanity issues, like I was super sensitive, no one knew about it. You could hurt my feelings so easy. Like body dysmorphia, I had skinny guy complex. Like I fucking hated myself, and like fear, riddled with fear and everything. I was constantly paranoid about people talking about me, judging me. So it kept me like so isolated internally, all while trying to portray something, right? Trying to put on a show, because especially in the early on, I was clean. And I had this assumption that if I could just have this relationship or this job or acquire these things, that I'd be okay. And all I did was just put that same super sensitive, insecure, fucking body dysmorphia, vanity issued, fucking paranoid, fucking insane dude in relationships and in jobs and fucking in these circumstances where I was interacting with human beings, dude. There's nothing more anxious than that. Like fucking, and like, that's what was like, the confusion in that in my process, when you don't have a full understanding of that, that's the path that it leads you down. And it's very important for us to like dive into this shit early, because how confused I was with 4 years clean, especially because my mindset had promised me, my disease had promised me that I would be okay at some point. Just get this stuff. And I believed in it, and then I got it. And then I was in this place where I was fucking dying on the inside, and I didn't have anything to directly correlate the suffering with for the first time. It was like, at least back then I could say it was the heroin, you know, it was the drugs, it was this. But now it was like this whole fucking picture that I told myself if I had, I would be okay, and I wasn't. And so that's when I was like I had the most suicidal ideations, the most like fucking like hatred of myself, because I'm in this position where I'm being validated from people that I love, telling me they're proud of me and telling me how good I was doing and to keep up the good work while I'm fucking dying on the inside. So now I'm trapped. How do I tell these people, like, I hate myself, I hate my life, I hate you, I hate this place, I hate this job, all this shit, like I was dying on the inside, and that catapulted me into like the actual journey of recovery, right? And like everybody has their moment where they're like, all right, I'm gonna do this, like, and it's the motivator that comes in the form of pain, right? That pain is like what usually tips the scale to get us to like maybe wonder if like this shit could work, you know? And then it's like when we get into this process and we understand the full spectrum of what can happen, the type of miraculous shit that can happen for us, not external. Everybody, all our lives, yeah, that is like a beautiful thing. But the miracle is like the fact that we get up on a daily basis and we're fucking, to the best of our ability, like responsible, productive members of society, and continuing a process of trying to change and be better. And that's fucking crazy. And not only that, but trying to take people along on this ride and teach them the same things that we're learning throughout this process. And like and Eddie, you can chime in too. Like there's got to be these pivotal moments where you're like, all right, like I know for me, and I'll give you an example and then I'll shut the fuck up because someone commented on the podcast, that dude to the far left doesn't shut up. And I said, Joe, that is a true statement, and I annoy myself, and I'm sorry. But I didn't start a fucking podcast because I couldn't talk. I'll tell you that right now. But I remember I was in Tewksbury Holden and Jimmy DeVoy. Shout out Jimmy DeVoy. I haven't seen him forever. I don't know how he's doing. I just know that I love him and I'm grateful for him because he came in and did a commitment when I was in Tewksbury Holden, and he fucking rocked my spirit. Yeah. And it was the first time someone had rocked my spirit like that. And I think I was 18 or 19 years old or something. And it made me intrigued enough to want to maybe learn something. And it's not even that I learned that something that day. I relapsed a couple times after, but his voice marinated in my head. He spoke with such a passion, and he talked about all this shit that I didn't hear people talk about. It wasn't just like I drive a nice car, It was like this whole profound effect of internal change and like work and all this shit. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And he looked cool to me, and he was younger, and like, and it stayed in my mind for a long time. And so when I finally did surrender, it was that voice, you know, like I remember that was one of the pivotal moments. So like, where, like, do you guys have like a moment or points in your recovery that catapulted that like transition into like true surrender?
Yeah, for me it was similar. It was pretty similar. I was in CSS down in Brockton, and there was like two moments when I was down there because it was, you know, for me it was, you know, 6 days, 28 days in the CSS, and I was kind of like coasting. We had the same commitments come in every single week. It was the same 4 or 5 people for every commitment every week, and it was getting a little redundant. And I had said something to my clinician. I was like, I don't want to go to this commitment tonight. And she's like, why? I'm like, I've heard them twice already. And she's like, well, why don't you go in there and close your eyes and see if you hear something else? And I was like, all right, I'll try it. You know, I was finally open-minded to the idea of like trying something else. And I closed my eyes and I heard there was this group that came in. They were like ex-military dudes. There was this one dude. He was huge. Like he just looked like the baddest, toughest motherfucker. Like you wouldn't fuck with this dude. Like if you seen him walking down the street, and he just like, I closed my eyes, and I probably heard him say it the 2 other times before, but he was like, stop being a pussy and man up and like own up for your shit and take acceptance for your own life. And it like hit me right in the face. I was like, this dude's right. Man, I'm a little bitch. I need to like man up. And that was pivotal. And then the following day, this commitment came in, and there was this kid. His name was Frankie. I'll never forget. And I'm looking at this kid. I'm like, I know this dude, and I don't know how the fuck I know him. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And I went up to him after. I'm like, hey, how do I know you? He was like, I was your roommate here two years ago when you dipped after 2 days. And I was like, you been clean this whole time? He's like, yeah, I've been clean since I left here that time. And I'm like, wow, like if this, all right, like this dude's been clean. All right, like maybe I can do this. Maybe this is possible. And that was a shine. Like, and I was fortunate. There was a staff member there, Big Richie, down in Brockton, and you know, God rest his soul, he passed away that last year, cancer, clean. And he lost 2 nephews in like 3 days or something like that when I was down there, and he stayed clean, you know, and he came to us as clients and just like opened up and like was completely vulnerable. And like this dude, I mean, he was a big dude too, old school Brockton dude, and he just opened up and got real with us and vulnerable. And I was like, man, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe like when my idea of being a man was like completely twisted and warped. And I was like, that dude's like crying his eyes out in front of a bunch of dudes he doesn't know. And it was like appealing to me. I was like, all right. And that was huge. That was a big turning point for me. A lot of growth started coming because I started opening up. And then like, I remember I cried for the first time, like real tears, not like crying because like I got caught doing something, caught stealing the ATM card or like, you know what I mean? Anything like that. I cried because I was sad. And I was just like, you know, Pat, like you said, broken. And I knew it, and I finally like just had to move on. That was a huge turning point for me.
Yeah. What about you, Pat? Was there like I know you got to the South Shore house and like you hit that point of surrender, that whole idea of your parents, and then that was that moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there was a couple of times, kind of like Eddie was talking about, but I'll say to you, like, you know, to throw Jimmy DeVoy out there again too, like he got sober in the area that I got sober in, so I heard him just like you a couple of times too. And people like that, it almost made me be like, I want to sound like him when I go in, and I want them to feel like I just felt when he, like, so
no,
he has
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
So like he hit me at the South Shore before, my home group or whatever. So he was around. He was, I don't know how long he was sober at that point, but he was sober longer than me, and sounded like really good,
powerful.
You know what I mean? And like you said, it wasn't about cars and stuff like that. So because you said his name, it just reminded me of all the times that I heard about him too. But on top of that, when I was in the house, I heard some just people come in and say some different things, just things I used to like do that maybe I shouldn't do this time. It was just like a couple of people that like had graduated the program had like come in and been like, listen, if you get a network in this area and like you feel yourself growing and you're getting better, like don't just go run back home to mom and dad.
Yeah.
Or don't go run like if you get sober here, like this is like now your family. And like for some reason, you know, God works in mysterious ways, like the same like commitment came in and like said the same thing over and over. So I'm like, are they talking to me? Yeah. Like, cause like I always just run home to mom and dad and I'm high like the next day. Like if I get and I never went back home. Like from that, like when I got to that halfway house, I never went back home. I stayed in a sober house and I got an apartment and I just I didn't leave Quincy for 12 years. Or no, I didn't leave. Yeah, I didn't leave that area for almost 12 years. But there was also just like other parts of like early recovery of just, I definitely put myself around better people than I normally did, but I still was not the most sober person when I got sober. Like I was off alcohol and drugs, but
that's my phone. This podcast.
I was like, I thought that would. I was like, I thought that would be me.
Episode 23, or is it 1?
Yeah.
And I was changing in the house, but I still hadn't like fully like, you know, put myself in the steps. Like it was like very slow for me. I was doing it, but it was very slow. And I just still had some of that, you know, like I say old behavior, but people tell you it's not old behavior if you're still doing it. Yeah. So it was just, I had still some traits that, you know, in recovery that I was still behaviors that were not going to help me move along, but because I was in such a good house and program, I was around like hardcore recovery people that weren't going to be like, oh, you know, everything's going to be all right if you just kind of like, they were like, dude, are you all right? Yeah. They would give me that look, and they'd be like it was just hard, like the kind of stuff we were talking about before the program started. It's like they saw that someone like me needed to be hit hard. Yeah. There are some people out there that like if you hit them a little too hard, they like crumble. Yeah. I shouldn't be laughing, but I did. So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It just happened. But like I got like crushed by these people, and it just really helped me. And at that point I was like you said, if I'm not using, if I'm not drinking, I'm not drugging, but I'm still fucking nuts, or I'm still feeling this way inside, like I gotta put myself, because I would break down crying like in my room sober. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then, you know, some of the people are like, bro, like, I mean, you know, when you were using and shit like that, and you were, you know, acting that way, like you were high, you were in a nod, you didn't care. Like literally, that's what just like shows me. It's like it's sad to say that like I came from like such a good family with good upbringing, but like when I was shooting dope, if someone literally died in front of me, it didn't even matter.
No.
And that's like awful, but like we all sit here and know that like that's what heroin does to you. Yeah. But like even just like little things when I'm sober, I was like, fuck, I can't do that. And I did. And then that kind of stuff though, like even feeling the pain, but I didn't like walk out the door of that halfway house and go get high over it. I was like, that's a change right there. I was like, I didn't just run out of that door and like, so I just kind of knew that like this was just different. Like I was willing, once again, like you said, like, you know, I didn't have much going for my life. So like, that's always usually a positive for me. Like I didn't really have anywhere to run and go to, but those little things like that of like feeling emotional over shit that I would never care about. And I was just like, I'm just so sick of like hurting literally everyone I know.
Yeah. Go ahead. I see you winding up to say something.
I was, yeah. So, I mean, what you guys are talking about is like the core of what the issue is in the program, though, between people actually making it and people not. It's like such a pivotal point in recovery. We get into recovery and then we want to fix everything on the outside. We want to believe that if we get the girl or we get the job or we get the car or we get the sneakers or we get this, that, or the other thing, we're going to be okay. And it's a fucking illusion. It's a lie. And it's ultimately what's going to do that for you is step work.
Right.
Like getting into the work, finding out who you are. It's your negative belief systems about yourself that cause you to feel and seek outside of yourself. But it's so hard. And so for me, when I got clean early, I just was a feeling fixing seeker everywhere. You know what I mean? Get me the girl, get me, you know what I mean? But luckily I was able to do it in the confines of the program where I was safe and people could say, it's okay. You know what I mean? You need to do some work. It's okay. You need to do some work. It's okay. You need to do some work. I was 5 years curled up in a ball feeling like I was all alone in this world. 5 years. That's like I was still feeling that way. Every time a girl would leave me, every time things wouldn't go my way. And it's such a trap in recovery to be living on life circumstances because living on life circumstances, it's like an empty promise. Sometimes it might work. Every time you have something exciting going on, it's going to make you feel good. But then the second things don't go your way, you're fucking screwed.
Mental, yeah.
You know what I mean? You're mentally screwed. And so ultimately, that's where we become open-minded to there's something helping take care of me here. There's a power. There's a spiritual aspect of this program that will help me to heal and change the way that I think about myself. But it takes work. It doesn't take just going to meetings. I'm sorry, but just going to meetings will not change how you think about yourself.
No.
You literally have to get into the work. You have to start to write about yourself. You have to start to see how you think about yourself because it's the shame and guilt that drives us. Shame and guilt feeds the ego. And the disease of addiction is just the ego out of control. Feeling better than or less than. And so every time, and it's interesting because we get into recovery and we still live in this, it says in the 11th step in NA, enforced morality lacks the true power of a spiritual way of life. But we still live in this prison of enforced morality. So every time we do something right, we're okay. But then we do something wrong. We date a girl we're not supposed to, or we are gambling on the side, or we're doing something, and we feel shame and guilt, and we trap ourselves and don't use the tools of the program to just be open and honest, because the truth is a loving, caring higher power doesn't care what you do. They want you, the point of recovery is to change the lens and see, oh, I'm doing this because I have this belief system about myself that I'm not enough and that these things outside of me are going to fix me. Yep. And so once you change the lens, recovery turns on. So it's not even what happens, it's how you view things. And that's like, but a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people don't see the lens. And so for me, it was very important that I like hung out with people who were viewing recovery from that lens, because it would remind me, they would be able to give me that perspective that I couldn't give myself. And they would give me the safety. Like you talked about, you want tough people. I don't like tough people. You fucking tell me what to do, I think, fuck you. Don't tell me what to do. Nobody tells me what to do. Like I'm rebellious. I don't know what it is. I need somebody like kind of like motherly and nurturing, as crazy as it sounds. Let me make my mistakes. Let me share with you. Let me gain some trust with you. You know what I mean? And I'll share honestly and openly what's going on with me, and I'll come to my own conclusions. That was what worked for me. But it's interesting because every person has a different personality, and there are different people that you're attracted to as a result, and you need to find your tribe. You need to find the people that work for you. You need to find the people that like work like and build that trust, because with that trust, you'll find freedom. Without that trust, you're closed, you're stuck within yourself, you're going to continue to participate in shame, guilt behaviors, you know what I mean? And before you know it, you get a little bit of clean time and then you relapse. You get a little bit of clean time and you relapse. But ultimately, you're closed the whole time. You've never put on the new goggles.
Yeah.
You know? So it's a trap door though, man, and not enough of us are getting clean because it's easy to feed into just, let me fix myself.
Yeah.
And when you said too about those people like that had that different view, when I share my story a lot, whether it's meetings or wherever, I always say like there was like a pivotal point that like, you know, little later than, you know, you said 5 years you were, you know, kind of depressed, but like there was that like time where I was like a year, a little more sober, that's when I really started to put myself around people that were like in recovery. Like I lasted as long as I was going to with the people that weren't really. I was probably gonna get high. You know what I mean? It was like that point. It was like that jumping off point. That if I didn't, and I always tell people, I was like, that point can make or break. And like everyone's different, I get it, but like I just feel like that point can make or break someone's sobriety. Who you put yourself around in those first 6, 12, 18 months can literally make or break.
It's your reference group.
Where you're gonna go?
Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
Yeah, the reference group.
Because we've been sober a while now. Like, and you have been. You know, you like we've been sober a while. So it's like once you're sober and you're staying around, usually you start hanging around with like-minded people because you know, like that's, you know, where you see yourself. You know, and then obviously you sponsor guys and you want to help people. But I've tried to put myself around people that see things differently. You know, and like when I look back, I was like, if I didn't do that at that point in my life, I don't think I'd be here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's the importance of your reference group, your network, just constantly, and it has to evolve too, right? It has to evolve as you evolve. We can't get so stuck and limited in like our circle, and we get protective of. I used to have friends that I'd bring a new guy in, they're like, fuck's this guy, fuck's this, fuck's going on, just like so uncomfortable, you know. And I'm like, I'm an Aquarius, and we're people collectors. Are you an Aquarius?
I'm an Aquarius too. Yeah.
Oh shit! I knew I liked you, Pat.
Yeah, the part you
Different
left
breed.
out though is sometimes those people he's bringing in with detoxing on the couch we're in.
That's very true.
Oh, that's blah blah
Always.
blah. He's gonna stay on the couch. He's kicking. He's always had the big heart.
Where's
Yeah.
the wallet?
For sure. No,
But know your place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could stay here, but know your place.
Yeah.
But so segue too, which is an important thing because you got some time, Justin got time, I got time, Jay has time, he's had more time, Eddie's got time. So here's a whole other fucking avenue because we're talking to the newcomers, some of the newcomers early in recovery. But this second half of the podcast is for people with time because there's this thing that happens, and I see it. I see it. I've been around for a long time, and I almost fell prey to it because with this time, it's the development of a new ego, and with new levels come new devils, and with you can't foresee. You can't prep for situations that you don't know are going to come. See, my disease, I've worked on areas of access that have things that I could prepare for prior to me getting to this position because of experience and data that I collected from me failing at these things before, right? Like I fucked up on this last time, so I know what to do different. So now new things are happening in my life. We could go into like being in a relationship, being married, being a father. Okay, even beyond that, working in business, making money financially, getting in your head, sponsoring guys. It's like all of a sudden people lose the ability to stop being transparent in their truth because they live into a new perception of how they want to be perceived. And I've struggled with that before too because people will put you on a pedestal. Especially you get some time and it's inevitable, and it's like our responsibility to remove ourselves from that pedestal for the people because and that's our responsibility to ourselves because we don't want to set an expectations that an unrealistic expectation for ourselves to live true to, right? And that traps us in this box of like secrecy or whatever the fuck it is, and then we start to be confined in the ego and like, oh shit, because I was so great or because I thought I was this or people think I'm this, it's like I can't present as this now. And it's like that's why I constantly say, and I'll say it every fucking podcast and every time I speak to meetings and to groups, and I say it out loud for myself, is you're never obligated to be anything other than what you actually are in this moment. And it's not who you are, it's where you are. People get it fucked up. Just because I'm fucked up right now in my head or I feel fucked up doesn't mean I'm a fucked up person. It means that's just where I'm at today. It's not who I am, it's where I am. And that's the shit that I always got to keep up front, because just because you got 15 years, I got 15 years, Justin's got 500 years, whatever the fuck he's got. Eddie, you got what? 8 years. We're still in the same process and an evolution of self, and the most important thing is still the most important thing, which is our transparency and our truth and our dialogue that we have, and allowing ourselves to like be transparent in our process. It's the only way we get better. And like, you fuck around and give a person like me money and responsibility. I've never had money like that, and I've never had responsibility like this. I'm gonna fuck it up, and I'm gonna get, my disease is gonna get active. And if you fuck around and put me in a relationship or give me like all these things, it's like struggles, internal warfare, because I've never done it. Right? So now my disease has new access to an area that I've never been in, I've never been exposed to, and it's fucking with me. But my head can go, you don't tell people that. You don't talk about that.
Yep.
That's exactly how I lost the 8. Right when you just said the number 8, because I remember Eddie coming in and being new.
Yep.
Then I remember me being new and coming back to live with you guys. And everything you just said just made my, everything from you guys going back to saying that Jimmy influenced you. That's the first person I ever did a commitment with years ago, right? And he sparked something in me. So you two's story with that, the lens, like you're saying, changed back then too for me. And everything that Chris is saying right now just made me honestly grateful. I'm coming up on 4 years in 2 weeks, right? I had the same amount I got clean originally in 2005. And exactly what he's saying, I ended up getting all this time doing conventions, being on convention committees, sponsoring guys, playing softball, right? The same league that you were in. All this great stuff that the life that I built, because I never been there before, I felt like I can't tell you that I'm in pain or a relationship ended or, right? That I was living unspiritually and all that, to the point where I just hid my truth, to the point where drinking, after all those years of recovery, seemed like a good idea. The same mind. And I love that you say you're not obligated to be anything other than what you are right now. That's why I am the way that I am. We were talking about before, being rigid and stuff like that. And I know that you said you need someone more nurturing. I think the rigid part only comes out for me when you know you're trying to help someone and they know you're trying to help them, but they try to feed you some bullshit. So then it comes out as, dude, I'm not going to co-sign that shit. So yes, it comes off as confrontational. And I'm only like that more so now because I just see people on the verge of relapsing. So if you can be loving, because I needed that, and I just didn't get honest, and I gave away my fucking time, and I almost didn't come back. You know what I mean? And then bringing back the changing point too. Justin was one of them for me, to be honest with you. The first time I ever tried to get clean, most of the commitments that came in, part of it was being negative, part of it was just being a closed-minded younger kid, right? But a lot of those commitments that came in, it just didn't really hit me, okay? And Jimmy DeVore is one of the first people I heard, and then I remember going to a meeting back in 2003 and hearing Justin and just some of the things that he was touching on. And you brought up Danny, and I've brought this up before. I don't know if it was on a podcast, but I've brought it up because it's a big part of my mind changing and being interested in recovery. He was talking about Danny, which is Justin's friend that passed away, if people don't know. And you broke down the DMX song, the 24 Hours to Live. At the time, I was a 23-year-old kid. I'd never been clean. I don't even know what the fuck that looked like. But at a meeting, I see someone that's my age. And I think you had 6 years at the time. I'm in the back. I'm in a halfway house. I'm with other guys catching wreck. But something about when he was speaking that night, I listened. And I'm real big into hip-hop music. So for me, it was at a meeting, and someone that's speaking at the front is mentioning a particular song that I know, right? So I'm listening. And I remember tearing up and crying. I don't know Danny. I don't even know Justin at the time. But that was a pivotal moment in my life where being clean and just the sound of recovery was a little interesting. Have I been clean since then? No.
But you remember.
I remember, and I became friends with him shortly after, and it's fucking now 2000, almost 21, and we've been friends since then because he reached out. Recovery looked different. Yes, I was in Tewksbury. That's where I've been numerous times, when there's fucking 80 guys. Yeah. And then someone like Jimmy D would come in, right, and light that motherfucker up because I was like, oh, now, see, you could hear the message with Jimmy and someone that speaks like that. You feel the message. Right. I'm sitting up close listening to every fucking word. He's funny. He's emotional. He yells. He's almost crying. I was like, oh, I can fuck with this style because it was making me feel all these different emotions. And I did strive to be like that. And I realized that we had a lot in common.
Can I jump in for 2 seconds?
Yeah, of course.
Because he brought up Danny, and like spiritually, I just have to give Danny some credit here. You were talking about how you came around and young people around. I came around, I got clean 1997. Before the Oxy Boom. The Oxy Boom changed the face of the fellowship. A lot of young people came in before that. It was a bunch of fucking 40-year-olds. I'm fucking 40. So now I'm the old guy. You know what I mean? But like back then, 40 was like, and as a
So
17-year-old kid, dude, you don't want to be hanging around with a bunch of 40-year-olds. You're like, it's like your fucking parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
That's us
and
now.
God bless me. Yeah, we're them.
us now.
I feel like I'm cooler now, though. I feel like we're like
We're
fucking.
different.
We're different, dude. I'm keeping the bar kind of.
Yeah, me
40's the new 20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I'm 60, maybe. But Danny, dude, God saw fit that the first meeting I ever walked into as a 17-year-old kid, there was another 17-year-old kid in that meeting. And I've been to thousands of meetings over the last 23 years that I've been clean. And you don't see a lot of 17-year-olds even today. You know what I mean? Even with all the young people in recovery, it's rare you see a 17-year-old kid. God saw it fit. And you brought up Danny because I literally just watched a movie last night. I'm really into like tear-jerking movies. It's just a thing. I love to connect with God these days. And God to me speaks through like so much. And I would advise everybody to watch the movie. It's a tear-jerker, but it's called Clouds. It's a Disney movie about this 18-year-old kid who loses his life to cancer.
Damn.
Dude, I was bawling my eyes out last night thinking about Danny.
Yeah.
And I just dropped a send. And on Monday, I'm going to do a live stream on the gift of life and death. Because it was a gift to walk Danny at the end of his life.
Yeah.
Danny died at 22 years old, and I wouldn't be clean without Danny. And he died of cancer, and this program like changed his life. And he was grateful when he died for the life that he got to live as a result of finding recovery and finding a spiritual way of life. And so this program goes way beyond all the material bullshit. Do you know what I mean? This program gets the true nature of who we are and what the fuck we're doing here and what's important and how we can deeply affect other people's lives on like a deep emotional level. So I love you, Danny. Thank you. And yeah, DMX, dude, and this is fucked up, right? Because he's talking about DMX, and I did used to share about that 24 Hours to Live because I was talking about, I used to listen to that song, 24 Hours to Live, what would you do, who would you screw? It talks about killing people, raping people, all kinds of crazy shit, and I like that, right? Dude, I watched my best friend fucking spend time with me, spend time with his son, spend time with his girlfriend, go to a convention a week before he died. He went to a meeting the night before he passed. He went to a meeting the night before he passed in a wheelchair. I brought him to a meeting the night before he died. He couldn't breathe the next night. That's what I saw my best friend do. That's how he walked to the end of his life. A man of like integrity, believing that he was going to be okay due to like entering the program. Wow. And the craziest thing, God brings DMX into my life years later, and so to help me sober coach the guy. And the guy writes a letter to Danny, thanking him for like what he had done for me, to be there for him.
Yep.
And someday, at some point, I'll bring the letter on here. Beautiful. So it's like, dude, the shit that will happen in recovery, man, I'm telling you, it blows your fucking mind.
Well, it's beyond the logical mind.
Beyond
Well,
the
there's also
logical
more
mind.
layers to that because that was a changing point to me. He mentioned a song. He mentioned Danny, and you were the first person that I saw that was my age that had time. In the first text that I read the morning I woke up when DMX came here was from Justin. Can you cut his hair? And I'm like, the fuck? So look at the layers of that.
Yes.
No, I'm dead serious.
will.
Like
I'm a little busy.
I've never met Danny.
He was my favorite.
I'd never met Danny though.
Dude,
But him
all we
speaking
did-
at a meeting that time, that story was moving to me, and we've been friends since literally a few weeks after that.
Dude, all I did when I got clean was roll around and listen to DMX.
That's it.
It's all I did for like 3 years straight. Me and Danny would roll around fucking Nashua, just bumping DMX. We had like a house speaker in the fucking back as like a system. You know what I mean? But the shit bumped. It rattled the fucking trunk a little bit. You know what I mean? And we literally would just roll around.
I still do. So I don't know if that's up, but I still
Always.
Oh.
Always.
DMX
So-
always.
Is he dropping a new album or something? I heard the new album's coming out by DMX.
I'm not sure.
He was in the studio. I seen some.
Beautiful man.
Yeah.
Beautiful man.
Yeah.
So
Big on God.
But even like some of the stuff we're talking about is like what you started off
Yeah.
with, like people not even could think lives like this could. And we've like said it a million times, it's not about the cars. We were just talking about all these emotions and all this stuff.
Yeah, that shit's never been.
This
Recovery's
is-
never been. Where could I drive? I mean,
this
did
is
I
like,
chase outside shit?
you know.
But it's never. That shit's never been important.
Yeah, it's just even hearing the emotions in you, and I could see how emotional you got just saying that. Like if you watch this podcast or listen to this podcast, and you're like somebody in early recovery, they're probably like, "What? Like I can feel like that, like because like that was just like I don't know if I wasn't searching for that kind of stuff, like when I was bouncing in and out, or I was just too much of a clown or whatever. There was a lot of fucking things, but like when I did get sober, I saw people like this, and I was like, shit.
I can identify with what you said though about like when guys are coming and speak and be like, I have this amount of time clean. I'm like, well, what do you do?
Right.
Because it was always about something entering my body. You know, and I just couldn't believe it. Like that idea of like being complete abstinence and like nothing and
Or being okay like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like maybe
the whole emotions.
Yeah,
thing,
that's it right there.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I cried, the first belly roll laugh, like all these things. Yeah. And dude, one thing I can identify with you too is like the family bringing in the background come from a good family. Because I came from like a loving and nurturing family. You said mama's boy, love my mom, love you, Darlene. But you know. Because all my friends that I met in recovery come from like, you know, the system or prison or like I was homeless, but like I thought I was better than because I was living in my car. Like I'm not the guy under the bridge. And it was that sick comparison too. So when you were saying that, I'm like, fucking finally, you know?
Yeah, don't get it twisted too though with this, like new people, there's work that's required. That's why I talk about we pay the toll. Pay me now, pay me later. And it's a continuous toll. The toll needs to be paid on a continuous basis. It's not you pay it in the beginning and you're through. No. It's like it's continuous, and a lot of what you'll find is the progression of your life happens way quicker than the progression of your mind. And so like your life will fucking be at this point, and yes, you haven't done work on yourself, and it's the epitome of like you have all these blessings and beautiful things, and you're in a self-sabotage mode. If you've ever had that feeling, or you're in a big feeling a sense of fear or overwhelmed, then you're lacking in the proper emotional connection to the world around you. So it's like that's a spiritual tell that like, hey, it's time to like we got to level up, and it's like learning about like what it is that's required from us. Like speaking of rap, it's like we talk about this, and I tell people all the time, like you want to get the most out of this program, work the 8 Mile style of recovery. And what that means is the B Rabbit style. Like at the end of that movie, he was walked through his fear. And if you've seen that movie, what he does to shut down, I put Papa Doc as the disease, right? and he comes out and like this is how he's gonna combat it. And what he did was he came out and he gave his transparent truth. He attacked his own insecurities. He told you everything about himself. I am white. I am a fucking bum. I do live in a trailer with my mom. He and at the end of it, what did the dude have to say? Nothing. And I correlate that with the disease, right? Because when I get into a place of transparency, there's no like tools or weapons that my disease can use to like pull me out of like the most important moments that I have, right? Which are these moments, the now. When I'm in a state of secrecy and live into perception and who I want to be and all this shit, I'll sit in a room with 50 people and feel completely alone and isolated because I'm in my fucking head and my disease is being like, oh, remember this? What about this thing? Fucking piece of shit. Oh, you did this. Oh, you haven't done this. Oh, that's going to fucking end. Or, oh, you're going to ruin that. And it's like this constant attack and barrage, and that comes from the suppression of my truth and like ego, not allowing myself to be. And it's like when I'm in that 8 Mile style of recovery and I have the right people around me that I can trust, because that is important too, right? You got to find your people in these halls. Like 12-step recovery is so important as far as the sense like 12-step meetings, because it's a beautiful place for the collective, the collection of like human beings. And like we say, not everybody's for you and not everybody's going to be amazing and all that. But there are people in there that are going to be the most important people in your life and a part of your path, and you have to seek them out. And the way we go fishing is with truth. Because how can you get someone that you're going to need to connect to if you're not sitting in some sense of like truth, right? I found my most important people by like, this is how fucked up I am. You know what I mean? And like question for them. Like, this is how fucked up I am. Like it's scared to death. And then like someone comes up to me like, hey, thank you for sharing tonight. Like I've gone through similar, I'm going through like, you know what I mean? Like my friends in my life, like, dude, I know shit about Eddie, and Eddie knows shit about me that fucking nobody should know. And the same with you and all that. And I have to have that. I have to have that in my life. I need to be constantly reminded that I'm in a process that change occurs in time. And it's through the repetition of important behaviors. And one of the most important behaviors that I have is the dialogue with my truth. And I know I'm repetitive on that. And I'm repetitive because my lack of that principle is what always fucks me up, even with time. If I want to look back and think of times when I fell into states of depression, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, in recovery. Let's talk about the last 3 years. It was when I started suppressing feelings became too afraid to like expose what was going on with me. And so when I do that, I start to create what's really going on and coming up with my own solutions and all this fucking insanity. And next thing you know, I have no idea of any of the root because I've just been taking actions of relief, right? Trying to seek relief. And that usually comes in the dumbest fucking ideas for me. It's like last time I went through pain, right? We were just talking about this when my dog died.
Yep.
What did I wasn't communicating with. It's like, and my mind was like, no one gives a fuck about your dog, dude. Honest to God, that's what my mind was like, dude, no one gives it. And then there was people around at the office that had lost like family members. So then it was like, really like, dude, you shut your fucking mouth. You don't be sad. You know what I mean? Like no one gives a shit. So what did I do? I put a new roof on my house.
Pool.
I bought 2 English bulldogs. I bought now I'm not even in a good place financially, dude. I'm talking about credit card spend. That's when you know you're in pain. And I'm talking about, I just got my debt paid down like previous to that. Like got a fucking personal, like one of those credit consolidation from the bank to bring my interest rate, like got everything down to like 0, had all this available credit. Now I'm in pain. I'm roughing it out for a few weeks. And then it's like, we should get 2 more dogs. So I buy 2 more English bulldogs, and the bulldogs come, and I'm trying to play with them, and it just makes me even more sad. So I'm like,
I'm gonna need a gym to chase these dogs around.
Yeah. Then when I'm gonna build a deck.
Thank you for the gym.
Then I put a new roof on my house. Then it never ended, and next thing you know, I'm like fucking 30 grand, 40 grand in credit card debt. And I'm like, this is where it gets you, right? It's like now my head, the same head that convinced me this is going to be the idea to fix me is the same head that's telling me what a fucking idiot. You just cleared all your debt, you moron. Why the fuck did you spend all that money? And then it's like, hey, the dog still died. You're still depressed. And I'm like, now I'm just like fucking going into a rabbit hole of like despair. And all I had to do was just call one person and just fucking cry. Let them know that I like the same process of anything. It's like, it didn't have to be this or that. Like Justin, it's like they can go through their mourning process and I can go through my mourning process too. But my disease minimized it. And that's how powerful this fucking thing is, right? And it's like, yes, that's a small example, and I'm just bringing that up. But that's the bait that my disease always gets me with.
You
right?
talk about that, Chris, though. You said in the beginning, putting yourself on a pedestal with time and stuff like that. You brought up Danny, and like Monday's the anniversary of Greg King passing away, right? And that's another one. Like, you know, you talked about also like being in recovery gives us the ability to touch people on such a much deeper level. And, you know, me and you talked about it briefly on the radio show that day was, you know, Greg passing away, he worked in treatment. And now, like, that's something I think, I mean, we all work in treatment, right? Yeah. And with time, sometimes we feel like I think all of us may fall victim to this. We feel like we have to put on this face because we have to be this strong force for these newcomers that are coming into treatment when we suffer, right, Chris? Like, we suffer from things and we need to just be able to say it, but we want to put on this face. And that's where, like, time tends to work against us. Don't say you're fucked up. Don't say you're hurting. Don't say you want to cry. Don't say you want to use or drink or whatever it may be. You know, and Greg King worked in treatment, helped thousands of people. I mean, that kid's wake was like the biggest, and I've been to hundreds of wakes. It was the biggest wake I had ever been to in my life, just to see how many people that kid touched, had the ability to touch, and went out of his way to help, and just didn't want to say, I want to get high. Right. And that was the last time that he ever got high. And you know, you talked about it and you brought it up and it's, you know, all this stuff. And you talked about the first belly laugh that you ever had. And Greg King was the first belly laugh that I ever had clean. The kid performed Baby Shark in the middle of the Orange Line with like 100 people on the cot. And he loved every second of it. And it was like, I was like 4 days into a halfway house and I laughed so hard. And I was like, wow. Like I felt alive for the first time. And it was, I'll never forget that. I always talk about that moment. Like I felt alive for the first time without the use of drugs.
Oh yeah. The importance of laughter and the importance of this, the unsuppression of the, that's why I went in and I don't know if I brought this up before where I had to tell everybody when I stole from the depot. Yeah.
You know what I mean? When I was in the self checkout and the fucking thing didn't scan, and I fucking
But
robbed the shit out of them.
But tell him,
I had
tell
the
him
money
what you
too.
stole. Tell him what you stole.
I fucking stole Christmas fucking blow up dolls, dude.
Santa Claus.
Fucking the big ones that blow up, dude. They were expensive as fuck, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna get them." Yeah. My son wanted them, and I was scanning them, and they didn't. The scanner thing didn't click, and I was like,
Fuck it.
"Oops." Bam, put it in the carriage. I thought I was only gonna steal that one. Fucking scanner didn't scan anything, so I was a full-fledged dude. Like I was a.
I'm committed now.
I'm committed. Now I was like, it went from like a little oop boop, missed one, and then it was like I was walking out with a carriage fucking full of just unpaid for shit, dude.
Christmas,
Bro, everything, that whole, like, it was like I was already pot committed. My disease came to the surface. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, how ridiculous do I look right now? If I get arrested in the depot, dude, with 14 years fucking, dude, I have like 9 credit cards in there. I have money, you know what I mean? Just like how quick the disease comes to the surface, and like that shit haunted me. I left my phone there. I was so nervous I left my phone. I had to go back.
He stole Santa and went on the naughty list like real quick.
But even you haven't like bringing up such a topic like that like honestly, like until you just said that, I don't even know if I've like when you talk about pedestals and being sober that long, and it's it just shows you the powerful, like how powerful recovery is, because like I haven't heard someone say something like that in a while, at least around me. Obviously COVID's not helping it down in Massachusetts because we're not around people probably as much as you guys are.
Right.
But like I needed to hear you like say that, because like for like where my life is too, like I can like my life probably hasn't been it's like amazing, like in regards to the things that like I've gotten, but like you said, I've never been in this fucking position before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though like every year has gotten better, whether it's like monetarily or like giving me a position of power or whatever, and then like you take away a lot of like my people because of like COVID and stuff like that. So I can't sponsor as many people. I can, but it's just not the same. Yeah. And just like hearing everybody, I just like literally sat there this whole time like in just fucking awe, and was just like, just once again me feeling like I'm fucking unique. Like I'm the only one going through it. But like literally everything that you guys were saying, just like stuff that I've been going through, and I fucking don't say it to anybody. You know what I mean? And like my wife, she's the best. She deals with me, so she has to be. Yeah. But she's not in recovery, and I have a daughter, and like she'll see me just like sit in the living room. A lot of it's because what we do for work, because we're just mental what we do.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
But I'm just like, she'll just sit. I'll just be like, and she'll just look at me, and she'll be like, Jesus Christ, like just because she knows, but she knows part of it is because like I'm just not talking about anything or whatever, and I want to help everyone or whatever. Like I won't not answer a call, like you said, and this time probably I shouldn't answer, but then I'm like, what about if that's the one?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, like I fucking can save the world. Like I can't, but it's just those thoughts. And I remember someone saying to me, God, it was a few years back. They were like, you know, some people put you on a pedestal, and it's not fair. Yeah. She said that to me, and I was like, holy shit, you're right. But I never say that. Like I should. I should be like, you know what? Like it's not. I'm fucking human, and the more stuff I get, sometimes it can make me even more sick. You know what I mean?
The more you get, the more you can lose. The more opportunity you have to lose. It actually gives the disease. I've gone through it. Gives the disease a new play. Like, how are you going to maintain all this? What if fucking you can't? You know, I don't know if that's happened to you yet, but
no.
Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? You get all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you have all this stuff to lose, and you're like, holy shit. What if I can't maintain all of this? What if I can't make this amount of money? You know what I mean? What if I can't maintain this amount of money? Disease of addiction is powerful, and we do a disservice to the newcomers when we don't share our truth, because we give a perception, and it goes beyond the program. Really, society has taught us to just put up a facade that we're all okay. Look at what's happening in society. Society is revolting back against we're not fucking okay. We're pretending like we're okay, and we're not fucking okay. We do the same thing in recovery. We put up this facade. No, everything's fine. We're okay. We're okay. And dude, nobody is ever all okay. We're not here to be perfect. If God wanted us to be perfect, he was just made us perfect. So like to be our true selves, and it's, I mean, you were talking about it, but I've fallen into the trap of spiritual narcissism. It's like you get some clean time, you become your clean time, you become like what everybody thinks. Oh, Justin's so spiritual, Justin's so this, Justin's so that. Dude, to be honest, Bill W. said in How Bill Sees It that AA is spiritual kindergarten. That's what he says. It says that in the book, spiritual kindergarten. So it's like, Dude, we got a long way to fucking go, dude. We were using drugs. We're not using drugs anymore. But, like, we got a long way to go on the spiritual path. And I know for me, I've had to seek things outside of the program to do some healing, dude. Because as much as I love the steps, it's given me some intellectual stuff. Yeah. But, like, at the same note, you can't, dude, there's a trap door in the program of you fixing you. And ego can't fix the ego. Ego just creates a new version of the ego, a better version. Like, oh, Justin was a shit bum using drug addict. Now Justin's fucking Mr. Recovery. But the problem with that is how's Mr. Recovery in like a fucking business meeting with a bunch of business professionals? My weight doesn't hold with my image of like Mr. Recovery over here. It falls down. So it's just a new image. So the goal is we're actually stripping away the images and we're being our true self. So fucking difficult.
Yeah.
So difficult. But what spirituality is really about, getting to our true selves, being able to like cry, being able to just share ourselves with everyone. We are one. It's not just in the recovery community. It's what's like everybody out there. There's no difference between us and someone who's not using drugs and alcohol. We're of the same spirit at the end of the day. And so when we separate ourselves, again, we're in spiritual kindergarten, acting like we're different. How many times you hear that in a fucking meeting? Oh, the whole world needs fucking 12-step recovery. No, it fucking doesn't. No, it fucking doesn't. Yeah. There are a lot of fucking great people out there who are fucking spiritually evolving, to be honest. And we need to be a little bit more like them. And there's a lot of people who are fucked up too, who could use the 12 steps or a bunch of other shit, dude. There's a lot of stuff out there to like help people fucking heal and change. You know what I mean? And it's not just, we don't have like the fucking, we don't have, what's the word? We don't have like the one solution to all the problems. You know what I mean? And I found for me, dude, it's like, I love 12-step recovery and I still utilize it. And it's where my tribe is. It's where my people are. But at the same note, there's so much stuff out there. We have a wall full of people here, and none of them are in recovery, actually. We got Joe Rogan, and we got Jordan Peterson, and we got Eric Thomas, and we got, you know what I mean? And all these guys, Napoleon Hill, all these guys.
Eckhart Tolle. All these guys are instrumental in my spiritual evolvement of being my true self. Because the problem is that we, at the core, as addicts, struggle to be our true selves. It's like our true, you know what I mean? It's the spiritual malady. Can you help me with that, Pat? I'm
malady.
not a
spiritual malady.
Spiritual malady. It's like the true issue that we're suffering from that we need to talk about more, really. I mean, that's the core of what's going on with us.
You said it was basically saying, Cronin, you need to fucking start talking a little more. Like that, honestly, I have another baby on the way. I'm blessed to have a baby boy coming in January.
Congratulations, beautiful.
Congrats,
oh man,
and
Are you guys twins?
Dude, he's like, I'm a mama's boy. I was like, yeah, that's cool. He's like, I'm an Aquarius. I'm like, yes. He's like, I have a wife. She's a normie. I have a daughter. I'm like, yeah, me too. He's like, I got another boy. I got a boy on the way in January. I'm like, me too. I'm like, wait, I'm about to start doing the mime thing where we're both like.
And I'm sitting there like to my wife the other night, like she knows, like she is like so normal. Like some of the stuff, like I say, she's like, dude, you were so fucked up.
Oh yeah, mine too.
And then I laugh when she says it, and she's like, it makes you more fucked up that you just laughed at what I said. But like I was just like, I just said like, because she just knows like, like our organization is just expanding like crazy. So like I'm just home, and then I'm like, we're having a baby in January, and like I'm talking about like one of our rooms, is it going to be big enough? And then like, if I just like talked about this probably with like other people, I'd be like, but like then I just say a bunch of stuff to her to like just make it like panic, like, oh my God, like what, are we gonna be able to handle this? And I'm like 15 years fucking clean.
Yeah,
like, that's not enough. That I'm just 15 years clean. But like I say that to myself, I'm like, how can I feel like this at 15 years clean? Because there's people out there that like have no issues and they're probably going through what I'm going through too. Yeah. So it's like a normal feeling. Yeah. But I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, because at that point, that's when the time doesn't matter.
Right.
Feelings are never gonna stop. Regardless of time. That's why I'm the way that I am now, because I'm afraid to ever have that happen.
But
again.
I'm like, and I like, I got this going on. I got this. Like, I can't say certain stuff. And like, I don't know. It was like when I was earlier in recovery, I was never like, I fucking told everybody everything.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and it's still the same
so
solution.
What you just said, that's a problem that like I need to probably gonna call the sponsor on the ride home.
It's good though. We go through waves of that. We all go through waves of that. It's the process of reconnecting, recommitting. I say it all the time. My recovery process has been that for fucking almost 16 years. It's like what happens is the disease lures me away with beautiful things.
Yeah.
Gifts. It doesn't use drugs, alcohol, like unspiritual things. It actually uses the most beautiful things that I have in my life. It'll use my daughter that I'm obsessed with. It'll use my wife. It'll use my beautiful home that I never thought I could buy. You know what I mean? It'll use this business that I'm like, how the fuck did we do this? You know what I mean? And I have to show, it'll use like amazing friends that I want to hang out with that make me laugh and make me feel good. It'll lure me away with stuff that's beautiful. And I can do that and get away from my foundation of what's the most important. We're talking about that transparency, staying in a place like in that, like allowing myself to like free myself. And it's hard to navigate sometimes when you're in that, because I'm not going to classify my daughter ever as a bad thing, or my home ever as a bad thing, or going away on a family vacation, or working hard, working extra at work. I'm never going to classify that as a bad thing in and of itself. But when that becomes a collected narrative of like what my life consists of, and I can get lost within that very easily and detach. And then, but here's the thing that I do have is that I have an awareness. I have a deep understanding of how and why I suffer and what is required for me to get back to the light. I feel myself going back into the darkness. I know the difference of me, and my wife's a normie, but she knows the difference in me too. Yeah. She knows. She'll be like, God damn, it's like energetically, she's like, what's up? You good? Or what's the matter? Or she'll actually be like, when's the last time you been to a meeting?
Oh God.
She'll say that, and it'll offend me.
Yeah.
That's how I know I'm fucked up. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Because you can't answer it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so upsetting. But it's like I have that awareness, and I know I know what it is, man. The self-audit, like what am I internally struggling with, you know? And it could be, maybe it's not a suppression of truth. Maybe it's a suppression of neglect and action, right? Maybe I'm like feeling these negative emotions because I've been neglectful and being like a responsible adult, not just a responsible man in recovery. Maybe I have guilt and shame because I haven't paid that parking ticket. And it went from $6 to fucking $126, or I have an excise tax that I ignored for no fucking reason, just because I'm on that just for tomorrow mentality, because I'm disconnected from the solution of this, what keeps me accountable and moving forward. Maybe it's like the fact that I feel guilty that I haven't been spending time with my 3 dogs. It can be a collective of a bunch of little things that I'll never be able to fully come to an understanding, trying to sort through my own motherfucking clutter to get to my own clarity. I need dialogue. I can have a conversation with Justin for an hour, and within that conversation, we could start off talking about basketball and end up talking about like how much I miss my dad. You know what I mean? Like fucking, that's the importance of dialogue. Like it just like that connection with people that you trust. But a lot of us like wait for like, cause we can't pinpoint it. Like, I don't even know what it is to talk about. It's like, just fucking talk. Sometimes we just need to be like that's where the solution comes from the dialogue. The transparency will work itself out if you're open to it. But tons of motherfuckers get caught up in the grips of that shit, the ego, the perception, and all that. And that's what takes us out, man. That's why the collective, the having coming together, being like, dude, this podcast, I don't even give a fuck who watches it. I leave here every week and I'm like, I do give a fuck who watches it, actually. And if you're watching, I want to thank you. I want to thank all of you at every camera. I want to thank all of you.
No, but I almost feel like I was just in like kind of like somewhat of a step meeting without really just because like you guys you just hit so much shit that I fucking haven't heard in a while, because like once again, you know, COVID's fucking with Massachusetts big time, and it's just I'm not around people as much. Now I'm in treatment, but like that can make you sicker.
Not the same.
Oh my God, dude,
yeah. But like just sitting in here, it was just like when you texted me, like, so my home group is on Thursday nights. We meet outside. And like how much I feel like I need it these days. It's like I'm gonna be outside until it's fucking snowing if people are gonna be out there with me. But I knew they were gonna cancel it tonight because of the rain. So that's why I texted you back, because like almost selfishly, like I knew we were gonna be doing a show, but like I just know how you guys roll up here. I was like I like needed this for what it was too. Right. You know what I mean?
Oh hell
yeah! It was harder to book you than Justin Bieber, man. I was saying that.
Well, he's a point.
We did go back and forth,
dude.
But like having a
driving into Boston and just seeing your big ass
dude.
face,
If he's on a billboard,
nothing but respect.
Come on, bro.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, but like even like having a daughter and a wife now and stuff like that stuff, I didn't have that like my first and it's like now it's like almost like asking, like I don't have to ask for permission, but like I do.
Oh, you do.
100%. Are you kidding me?
No.
I shouldn't have said I don't. Like I do, but
I asked permission today.
She's not. I'm just blessed to have a wife that like just understands. But like I was just saying it, I was like, damn, like I need to like go up there. Like I'm like I know I am so much more disconnected than like I usually am in the recovery. Like of course I talk to my friend. I'm in like a fantasy football with like my home group. But like, can you imagine how that goes? Like we want to rip each other's heads off. So there's no spirituality on that.
Yeah, fuck you,
but, like
Jay.
coming up here,
Fuck you, Eddie.
I was like, you know what? Because like when I commit to something, like this is probably ego too, or it's discipline from being in recovery. But if I say I'm gonna be somewhere, it doesn't matter if like I have to be there.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if something like what craziness, like because I told you I was gonna be here tonight, I had to be.
Yeah.
So I just said, just send the fucking text, just send it, and I was like, and then I just sent it. I'm like, now I'm going.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I couldn't be more happy that I did.
Yeah, if I say I'm gonna be somewhere, you better remind me the day before, because I promise you I will fucking forget. Because I am
and 20 minutes before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe
You're coming,
20
right?
minutes.
You're
He's
coming,
the
right?
same way, dude.
Yeah.
He's
I
fucking.
am.
Well, I gotta put it in my phone too,
Yeah.
in like 3 different apps.
You're a
So it
busy
just
guy.
boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, we're gonna take a quick pee-pee break. We're back from the pee-pee break from Chris Ledoux.
I needed to pee. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the weak bladder.
Yeah, wicked week.
I wanna touch on this. We talk about a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff in this podcast too. Like I think the basic point ultimately is the continuous process of surrender, even with clean time. Surrendering to how this shit works, which is the steady state of truth, dialogue, connection, all that. Even my man Carl Jung said we're not even from the 12-step fellowship. He said in his clinical opinion that the solution to this was community connection and a spiritual awakening.
Yep.
And like the power of the collective, and staying in a place of truth. You can't get the help you need unless people know where the fuck you're at. But what I want to talk about, because you have a daughter.
I do.
You have a daughter.
I do.
You have a daughter.
I do.
I have a daughter.
He does.
I got 3
I like
daughters.
daughters.
Oh, you got all the daughters.
Yeah.
You have a son now too. I got a
Same.
boy on the way, but I like for me, and we're coming to the end of this, and so I want to we can end the podcast with this, talking about this whole shit because I love it. But my daughter broke open parts of me internally that I didn't even know existed. I remember having such a fear. And I spoke to you about this prior to it and stuff like that, of like what it was going to be like if I could, because I've always struggled emotionally and affectionately, right? I've like worked really hard to be where I'm at today, and it's still not good to like, for most people it's like normal, you know. When I look at other people's relationships, like if I set the bar towards like what I see other people, I'm like, fuck,
Not gonna get there.
yeah. Me too. Luckily, like I have a wife that's like patient and tolerant in my process now. You know what I mean? She had to get an understanding of like, well, who the fuck I was for a little bit. Now she understands, and she's able to like give credit, like with like how I've been progressing. And then, so I had this fear with having a little girl, and was I going to? I didn't know how I used to hear people talk about like, oh my God, all this like. Remember when my daughter was born and I cried and all that and all this. First off, I didn't cry when she was born. I was actually I was disgusted by the whole experience. Like childbirth isn't what they said it was.
Oh my God.
It was fucking mortifying and horrible. And if you're gonna experience it, don't take that. Or do what you want. I looked. It was.
Don't look down.
Don't look.
Don't look.
When they come out, they look like a fucking serpent from Aliens, dude. There's goo all over them. There's a string attached. It's like,
Oh, dude, their head. My daughter had this long head, and I thought I just had an alien. I just
Oh,
had
my
the
God.
ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Dude,
What
and
the
then they
fuck?
lifted
Are
her.
you fucking kidding me? Dude, that's what I thought. 'Cause I'm such an egotistical motherfucker. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I want a cute baby. And you're like, what the
horrifying.
fuck? Dude?
Horrified. They were like, do you want to cut the umbilical cord? I was like, fuck it. I'm about to faint right now.
Fucking cone head.
Clean that thing off. I don't even know what that is. It didn't even look like a baby, dude. It was fucked up.
I was scared.
Oh, yeah.
Almost
What's
threw
your
up.
return policy?
See?
I did cry, but like I don't know why. It just happened. But I was like literally gonna throw up. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
holy shit!
The emotional part came way after. It was like, I was in a state of shock.
When they handed her the baby and it was in her arms, that's when I cried. But when I was like, holy fuck!
Oh, yeah. in that moment, though, exactly what you just said, when my daughter was all cleaned up and all that, and my wife was holding her, and then I got to hold her, and then I was looking at her. I knew my whole, like, I felt something inside of me. Everything changed in that moment. I was a different human being. I felt an internal shift. It was like all this question of how is it? What I can't even explain the feeling I got. I just knew I was different, and life was now different. And like through this process of like watching her grow and like turn into like this, she's her saying "da" and her little personality, and like there's like it's just opened this like emotionally and all this stuff inside of me. Like I never like thought like I could feel certain like I've loved people. I love everybody in this room. Like I love my wife. I love Ryan Reynolds, and I talk to this all the time, like his description of what it was like when he had his daughter. And he said, obviously, how much he loves his wife. And he was saying, like, I love my wife. She's my best friend. And I thought I knew what love was. And he was like, and then when my daughter was born, I realized if there was ever gunfire, I would use my wife as a human shield to protect my daughter. That's how much I love and like, I fucking empathy. I relate, and it's not. That's a terrible. Like it's a joke, obviously,
Dude,
but it's like this.
there's some truth to that.
It's like
punch
this.
you in the mouth when you walk.
Oh,
in.
she'll shank me. Yeah,
Sam don't play.
but it's just a beautiful, and it's like it gives me a sense of gratitude too. It's like recovery has given me the opportunity of like being able to walk through all these fears and experience these, because it's like a miraculous feeling that I feel. It's something internally. It's like that I never got to experience that feeling, you know. And it's like here I am experiencing it, and not only did it open it up, and it's like for my daughter and my family, and it's gone on for like. It's broke me open, and she's not the only one that receives it. You know what I mean? Like my wife gets a different side of me now. It's like it was like a door that was locked for so many years, and my daughter came and unlocked it, and it's for like everybody to experience, and it's changed me in like that process of that. And it's like especially like the little girls. Like, were you like did you feel or have something like that similar experience?
Oh yeah. It's never been the same since. And there's been like multiple. Like moments, you know, since then, because I was thinking the same thing. Like when I found out that it was gonna be, like in the back of my head, like I was just like, oh, girls must be like so hard. Like I just want a boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was just like my history of like growing up. You know what I mean? Not being like the best dude in the world, just like a lot of us. But I was just like, it was more fear. It was just fear of like, you know, am I gonna be okay having a daughter? And then just when she was born, I was just like, I really wanted a daughter.
Yeah.
That's
Man.
That's what I wanted. And just her saying like, like she's still, sorry, honey, but like, she's still not saying mama. She like, still, literally, she looks in my wife's face and goes, Dada.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So she's, you know, my wife's like, I'm so sick of this, and she's the most patient, like probably woman I've ever met in my life. But just her running around the house, and it was like you said, it's just like when I got sober and like truly was sober for a while, and like when you have the spiritual weight, all that kind of stuff, when you're like, wow, like I can't believe this is such an amazing process in recovery. But then like my daughter, I didn't think I could have really those feelings again. And like that example you gave, I think it's pretty almost spot on. It's almost spot on, because it's just like what I would do, you know, for my daughter. It's just like, you know, but
me and Justin been researching like how to live forever. That's like where my
dude.
mindset's gone. I swear
I'm about it, bro.
You can plant a computer chip. I'm like, what's Sylvester? Dude, if it's HGH, testosterone, multivitamin shot in my fucking ankles, I don't care. Whatever's gonna give me longevity to be able to see all the moments I possibly can and experience everything I possibly can with my children. I'll take new fucking experimental trial drugs, dude, if they bring it and they're like, this will give you another 20 years in life expectancy. Like that's where my mind went.
Yeah, but that's how you know you're on a spiritual journey.
that's what I'm saying. Recovery, right? Like
When like life never looks like it's gonna be bad, like you're just living with a lens. Like I have a picture of myself as like 120 years old, just giving people money and loving people and like seeing generations of my family and just spreading love to the world. And my kids crack me open to that without a doubt. I mean, my oldest is 12 at this point. Dude, she was being bullied in school. Or she's not even being bullied. She's struggling in school. She's struggling socially, dude. And she told me the other day that, you know, she used to not feel it, and now she feels it, and she just starts crying, and she started crying on me on the phone, dude, and I just started bawling with her. You know what I mean? And I just told her it was okay, and she was going to get through it. And that, like, dude, she's literally, like, so spiritually gifted that she gets picked on. Do you know what I mean? Because she's just, like, this loving, caring spirit, and it's viewed as weak in this world. It's fucked up, dude.
It's probably from you, like the spiritual.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, dude, I'm so deeply connected to her and her spirit. And the weird thing is that I thought I could never, like, Dakota was my first, and she was, you know, I just thought I'd, like, the next one I'm not going to love as much. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Just to let you know.
I've been saying that.
Yeah,
to my
so
wife,
I
just
get
like,
it.
say
So
the
I
same
get it.
shit.
I was
No,
like,
but
I am not gonna like him as much as Skylar. And she's
I'm
like,
telling
what
you
the fuck's wrong with
factually.
you?
No, I thought that 100%.
I asked you about
I
it.
thought
My
that
daughter.
100%, and I'm telling you, the next one comes, and they're such a new individual.
Yep.
You love them just as much. It's like crazy. And then if you really expound on that, if like we expounded on what are we doing here, what's the point? It's like as you start to have children and you love them just as much, the point is we're supposed to love everybody just as much.
Yeah.
That's what we're fucking doing here. We are so programmed with a bunch of bullshit, dude, that like separates us with beliefs of who we are and fucking, you know, Democrat, Republican, I fucking like this, I like that. When like fundamentally when we're young and we can just unconditionally love without all the bullshit of like what we've learned and belief systems, it's so pure. And to me, the spiritual journey I'm on now is like we're all God's children and we're all literally supposed to love each other that deeply. That's where I'm trying to go personally. And am I anywhere close? No. You know what I mean? But things like this help me to get there.
But what a beautiful target to have.
Yeah.
you know?
And it's my children that open me up to that. It's God showing me the love, God, source, universe, whatever people identify with. It doesn't really matter. You know what I
Dakota's a
mean?
light. She's always been a
she's-
light. She's going to be what her journey's supposed to be because of the work that she's going to do in this world. And you intuitively know that.
Yeah, no, I do. I do.
But she's been a light since she was a child. She's always exuded that spiritual, like, just smile, happy.
can just let go and dance.
Oh,
She can
yeah.
just,
Didn't
like,
give a fuck.
No,
dude. She
didn't
was
give a shit.
so authentically
But she's
herself.
starting to give a shit is the problem. And I'm like, fuck you, world.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? For like trying to corrupt my child.
I always
Like,
wonder-
I'm not going to let it happen, dude.
I always wonder how I'll be able to like handle because I just like even when you said you took it back a little bit with the bully thing, but like if anybody fucks with my daughter,
Yeah.
in my mind, and I'm like, okay, you're sober, relax, and I'm like, no, like it's
Dude,
just
I
like,
get
so
it.
did you feel like?
Oh,
that?
dude, I want to show up to the middle school and just start kicking kids' lunch
Hell yeah.
fucking over. 'Cause it's like, dude, she doesn't,
is it
because like,
just
dude,
me?
she's
I'll
going to
come.
the lunchroom and she doesn't, you know what I mean? She doesn't have any friends, so she like that's the worst fucking feeling. And I'm like, are you fucking idiots kidding me? In the school system now, like we can't have a safe classroom for the kids to go to who like don't feel connected. Like one teacher can't think that there's like some kids struggling in here. They like walk in here and just feel all fucking alone in this cafeteria. Are you fucking kidding me? I will show up and kick every kid's fucking lunch table over and I'll be like, let's do better here.
Yeah.
Did that
You kids are
happen?
pure. Like the kids
start
are pure, but they
slapping
need to be challenged to like do better.
What's that movie where they lined up where he just slapped every kid in a row, fucking lined them up, and he just was.
Did that happen when we were like, of course, like kids got picked on, but I feel like what I hear these days is so much worse.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it wasn't tolerated in high school too. Like if you fucked with a kid, like they're just gonna fucking
Well,
suspend,
now
they're gonna suspend you.
Kids have social media at such young
Yeah,
ages
that
too.
shit was-
They take
yeah.
it to a whole new level.
shit-
It's like they all gang up on social media.
Thank God.
There's so many different more platforms for them to pick on people. It sucks.
If we had
It's
social
crazy.
media back in the day, we'd have been fucked.
Yeah, it would have been terrible.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's worse. But
Eddie.
Oh man, Mila. You guys knew. I mean, you know, Mila's my world. She always has been. But like, unfortunately for me, I was actively using when Mila was born, so like I didn't get to enjoy that moment. Talk about how powerful the disease is, right? That was the only thing that I cared about at that moment was getting high. But you know, we talk about kids being blessings. I mean, Mila was like the biggest blessing in the sense of like something that I helped give life to gave me a reason to want to live. Right.
Yeah.
So like she was the motivation to get clean, you know, and once I got clean and like I got clean to want to be a father to a little girl that I didn't know. Right. If that makes sense. Right. It's like I didn't even know this little girl and I wanted to be her dad. And you know, so when I got clean, I mean she changed everything. And the first time I heard her call like daddy was like that was it. That was the game changer right there. I was like, oh man, like she called me daddy. Like she knows who I am now. All right. And it's like she's melted my heart ever since. And you know, you talk about the second kid. So I got to enjoy all that little stuff with Micah. You know, it was like I got to enjoy the birth and be a part of that. And you know, when you're having a bad day or you like want to feel sorry for yourself and all in our shit with all these responsibilities and stuff that we have to take care of, like wake up at like 5:30 in the morning with your kid and like start changing him and watch them like giggle and do like little shit. And you're like, what the fuck am I complaining about? Right? It's like those little moments. And I always talk about that. That's the little moment that's like when he just giggles and laughs or he needs something and he just like slaps me in the face to wake me up in the morning like, Daddy, you ready to play? Those are the moments. And it's like, oh man, this is why kids are the shit. This is why I'll go help you kick lunch tables over any fucking day. I'll steal all the snack packs.
Yeah, I'll steal all the snacks.
And eat them.
Yeah.
Right in front of
And then that's funny. My wife was just telling me about how her mom, when she got bullied and some girls jumped her, and her mom's crazy. Well, she's such a sweetheart now, but she was like, and my mother grabbed me. We went right to her house, and my mom went to the door and was like, "Bring your mother out."
Oh, shit.
That was the back in the day buffet
That's
status.
when you could
Like,
do that.
That's like my
Yeah.
mother.
That's how shit got handled back then.
My mother
J-Mac-
did that. I got jumped when I was a kid, right? And I remember the kid suckered me, and I had a fucking lump on the side of my head. My mom come home. My mother's a fucking project chick still to this day. Like she's never left the projects like mentally, and she's like, "What the fuck happened to your face?" I was like, "Oh, fucking." I was like, skip one, because I got hit and I didn't fight back. They were older kids, and I said who it was. She went to the house, caused a big fucking scene, and tried fighting the mom of the kid. She's like, "Your fucking son's a pussy. He's 3 years older than my son. Come fight me, you fucking cunt." I was like, "Oh, shit." Yeah. She's like that.
We don't see enough of that anymore.
But I got
That's how it
bullied,
should
like
be.
you guys are talking about, Dakota, and it reminds me of being a kid because I was always the new kid, and I got
Yeah, I got
picked on.
Yeah.
and-
Oh, yeah.
But what's
I did
fucked
too.
up is thinking about it back then, it was the most frightening fucking thing in the world.
Oh,
and I
man,
literally can honestly say that being 40 now, I love that because it turned me into the fucking person that I am. You know what I mean? It really did. But then it was frightening as fuck. Yeah. You know, it really was. And kids are mean.
I was a
they're
dirty
fucking
kid.
mean.
Like I had the dirty clothes. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't told to shower every day. I always got.
Bro,
picked
I went
on.
to school in third grade with Jordache high tops on that I thought were the illest fucking sneakers ever.
Dude,
I was around kids with retro J's and
Wait,
were
they
like,
weren't?
"What are those?" And I was like, looking back, the lesson in that is that, like you said, she's a free spirit. I didn't look at those as less than sneakers. I loved them. I've loved the color purple my whole life, right? It's supposedly a girly color. I'm a graffiti writer.
fucking
I love
love
purple.
Charlotte Hornets.
I
These
rock
kids
pink
ended up
all the
being
time,
like,
too.
those sneakers suck. So now in my head, I was like, those sneakers suck, and I felt less than. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. Dude, I wet my bed till I was in 5th grade, and I got... Dude, kids when I was in 8th grade were like, you used to show up to school smelling like
Chris
piss.
pissed his bed last week.
in 4th grade.
I still do.
It's fucking... Oh, man.
My son told me this morning that he pissed my bed. He's like, I pissed your bed. I was like, damn.
Kids that got emotional problems, foster
those
kids and
moments
shit,
right there.
they wet
Dude,
their
I
bed
was like,
forever.
you got
You know.
It's
Yeah,
those
you grew
moments
up with
right
them.
there that I'm glad that
5th grade.
I don't have
Wait to have kids.
I did it. I pissed my bed like, late in life too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I shit my pants once a year.
Oh, I shit my pants at least once a year. At least. I haven't. You know how you know I've been out of the gym for a while? I haven't shit my pants.
the pre-workout.
Haven't shit my pants. When you start putting pre-workout and high protein into a diet, you're shitting your pants as a grown adult.
Or puking.
100%.
Or puking.
Or throwing up.
Or
Yeah.
throwing up.
Absolutely. I have no shame in that shit now.
Not going into the gym. I'm just going to sit outside the parking lot and throw up.
What a perfect way to end this podcast. I want to thank Pat for coming on.
great,
This
Pat.
was
Thank
awesome,
you.
man. This is exactly what I needed. This is what I wanted it to be, man. It's we're a little off the rails. We come in and out with a bunch of shit, but it's real, it's raw, and this is the shit that actually helps people.
Right.
And thank you, Eddie, for coming on. I'm gonna have you on again too, because you didn't really say too much, and I'd like to get more. But technically, you said about as much as Chris did, so it is what it is.
We're a team. So
Yeah, we're a team.
Nah, hell yeah. So
gonna be
shout out to our sponsors, Rich Print Shop, my brother Nico. Shout out to my brother Nico, and shout out to my grandfather who left a comment on the podcast. We're gonna get you in here.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
bring
yeah.
him in.
My grandpa's the man, bro.
Oh,
There he
can't
is.
wait.
He's gangster. 57 years in AA.
Oh, man.
Still goes to a meeting. Bro, every fucking, it's like I told them, it's like I bring him in, everybody's gonna know how much I plagiarize everything he's ever said.
You already told me like 3 years ago that you plagiarize everything he says.
Oh, he's deep. He's a
watching our
deep dude.
podcast. He's like, this motherfucker.
Yep. All right, we out. Peace.
Peace.
Oh shit.